Kansas City Chiefs and the Chargers. This game is not in the U.S., right? This game's in Brazil. Rashee Rice was approved to go into Brazil because he's got some troubles going on, and that was like a news story. Yeah, this game's going to be on Friday night. So we got a opening game on Thursday night, Friday night game in Brazil, which if you guys remember, I don't remember if this game was in Brazil or if it was in somewhere else last year, but the people were slipping all over the place in one of these games last year. I for some reason, I think it was Brazil, might not have been. That's something I'll be looking out for in this game because it definitely changed one of the game dynamics, one of these abroad games last year. I hope that's not the case in this one. The Chiefs head into this game as just 3-point favorites versus a really interesting Chargers team. The Chiefs have been playing their starters in these preseason games. One of the few teams to play their whole starting lineup basically in that third preseason game. It definitely seems like they have a bit of a chip on their shoulder heading into this season after a pretty embarrassing Super Bowl loss on an otherwise pretty good season from the Chiefs last year. They skirted by, though, in a lot of regular season games. So I think a lot of people are think that they aren't as good as they showed, at least in the regular season last year. You're never going to count out Mahomes in the playoffs. Now, we do have Mahomes as a top 10 QB. He's got to be started. Rashee Rice, in his suspension situation, I mean, you got to get every week you can out of this guy. Just such a smash role for Rice when he plays. He's projected as a top 10 wide receiver in week one. He was not getting drafted anywhere near that. So you definitely got to suck up all the Rashee Rice weeks you can get if you took the risk and you drafted him, which I have not been. I'm a little surprised. Chiefs only favored by 3 points in this game. Isaiah Pacheco does not project well for us. He's someone that we've been a bit below on across the board all draft season. We're projecting a bit more of a committee approach than what we've seen from the Chiefs in the past. Kareem Hunt mixing in. I still think Brashard Smith might have a bit of a role as well. Elijah Mitchell seems like he's fighting for a roster slot right now, so I doubt he has much of a role at all. Xavier Worthy is one of these fringe flex guys that you drafted as a starter. I think you kind of have to start him if you drafted him, and you just kind of have to roll with the boom bust weeks of Xavier Worthy. I thought the Chiefs would be favored by a little bit more than this, honestly, in this game. If you pull up the Chargers here, Seth, pretty much, I think there's really only two guys that you absolutely need to start for the Chargers, and that's McConkey, obviously, and then Marion Hampton as a rookie. I think you still need to start him in this game. A little bit of a scary spot for him to start. The Chiefs' run defense was certainly one to be fearful of last year. It should be basically just as good this season, but Hampton projects as an elite prospect and should see at least 15 touches in this game. I don't think Najee Harris is going to end up playing in this game. We're, I think, 12 days out from this game right now, so that could change. But yeah, if Najee's not suiting up, you just have to start Hampton. And then Keenan Allen's not a guy I really want to start here in week one. Anything to add, other things that you're looking for in this game, Avery?
One thing I'm looking for specifically is one player that most people probably did not draft, but somebody that projects well and already on sportsbooks is expected to have some usage is Keenan Allen, expected for about 40 yards and 4 receptions, which is absolutely insane compared to where his draft ADP is. I think he's going to have more of a role than people expect, especially when you go against a tough pass defense in the Chiefs. Ladd McConkey obviously going to be startable, going to be that guy, but they do need a number 2, and they brought on Keenan Allen for a reason. So that is a guy in a situation I'm watching and probably is going to be one of the top waiver ads, if not already on a roster in your league.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think he's going to have a bigger role than most people expect. All offseason, I was drafting him in best ball before he signed to a team because I was looking at this screen that Seth has up right now. 28%. He was wide receiver 7 in target share last year. This guy sucked up so many targets last season. He's clearly past his prime, but he never has won with speed. And yeah, I think he's going to take kind of an annoying amount of targets from this offense. I still don't feel great starting him week one. He did join the team like 2 weeks ago still. Obviously, it's the familiarity with Herbert, but it is a different offense than he played in before on the Chargers. But yeah, Ladd, I'm not scared to start Ladd at all. I think you absolutely have to start him. He really is a second-round pick, went in the third round, I think, in a lot of drafts. How are you feeling about Keenan Allen in week one, Seth? Would you risk him in your starting lineup? It could be a pretty high-scoring game. The over-under right here is the over-under in this game was 45.5, really just behind that Eagles-Cowboys game.
Yeah, I think I really like Avery's call out on Keenan Allen because I honestly have been drafting him like crazy every chance I get. Anytime he's near, I think he's a good pickup. Like you said, Sam, the 7th in the league in target share. And this was on a Bears offense with Caleb Williams that wasn't the most efficient, that didn't have the best. If these targets were from somebody else, I think the fantasy points per game would be higher. So I am excited about Keenan Allen. I don't know if I'd start him week 1. Just to see the involvement. And that's kind of the other call out I wanted to make was Xavier Worthy, a player that I wasn't too scared to draft. I haven't drafted him at all yet, but with his, we look at his game log last year, 20 points week 1. So maybe week 1 is not the time to sit him, but then you get a 4.2, a 5.
If
he
you
did crush
there
it.
Too, he didn't have a game with more than 3 catches till week 8. Like that, if you remember his first game, he scored 2 touchdowns. One of them was a rushing touchdown. He touched the ball 3 times. He scored twice in his first NFL game.
So that's a question mark for me. This is, for me, one of my strategies is week 1 to maybe sit your more risky players for players you are 100% confident have a big role. So this is where I say, do you go Xavier Worthy or Jacoby Myers? Because Rashee Rice is back. Remember, we got to keep that in mind. All these big games at the end of the season with 5, 6, 7 targets with Rashee Rice out last season due to injury. So with Rashee Rice there, they expect him to be there only 4 weeks. I think I'm using him as much as I possibly can. Travis Kelce, I like that. I didn't follow it that closely, but last year with Taylor Swift on tour, he was traveling all over the world the entire offseason. I hated that for fantasy football. This guy had to have been tired. Like, he was going everywhere. He used the bye week to go to Brazil, I think, for one of her concerts. This offseason has been way more chill, and I think the Chiefs have locked back in. I expect Travis Kelce to be really good this year again. So Xavier Worthy is someone that I am worried to start week 1. I think if you drafted him, you may still have some guys on your bench, especially if you're facing a weaker team week 1 that you don't like their team at all. I may bench him and just kind of see what's his fit in the offense this year compared to last year, and then use week 2 on. You have some information to go off of.
Yeah, it's a fair point. And Xavier Worthy is definitely one of those floor ceiling decision guys. I feel like every single week. Do you want to go with the ceiling with Worthy, or do you want to lock in a floor with someone else? And I think it's worth calling out too. It's definitely a great point with Worthy because we had him really climbing the ranks towards the end of draft season with the Rashee Rice news coming out. But because we're accounting for this back half of the season suspension for Rashee Rice that was bumping up Worthy's overall rank, but that's not affecting week 1, which is why our rank for him week 1 is so much different than our rest of season rank. And it is important in fantasy. All that matters is the fantasy football playoffs. Is part of the reason Travis Kelce was on my do not draft list for the 2nd straight season. Nothing to do with week 1, or really week 1 through 14. Those are the weeks that you draft Travis Kelce for, in my opinion, to get to the fantasy playoffs. And I totally agree. I honestly think tight end 11 might be a little low here with where we have Kelce ranked. The other thing I'm very intrigued to watch in this Chiefs offense is Marquise Brown going to have a role on this team? He's been really injured almost his entire time as a Chief. Right now he's dealing with, if you pull up his latest news, he just returned to practice. He was dealing with a foot/ankle injury. This is one of those cases where I could see a really big sleeper candidate for this season being Marquise Brown, because last year he missed the whole season with injury. And then this year, right at the beginning again, he deals with an injury, but this was a minor injury. This wasn't like a major injury. He's already back. 6 days ago, he came back from this injury, but because in everyone's minds, he's injury prone, he missed all of last season, he's already hurt again. Well, now he's back and healthy. They did sign him to have a real role as the wide receiver 3 on this team. If Rashee Rice ends up missing time, we've seen Marquise Brown, you see there in some of these past seasons, like earn legit target shares every sort of time he's been healthy. I think he could really mesh well with Pat Mahomes. And before last year's injury, Mahomes was like spewing praise for Marquise Brown in their offseason workouts. So yeah, I'm very intrigued about him as a very deep sleeper. He was going undrafted, I think, in a lot of fantasy drafts. I think in the best ball stuff I've been doing, he's really been taking down draft board since that injury, like round 12, 13, 14, 15 are the rounds you're looking at Marquise Brown. He definitely has at least a ceiling, like sort of a discount Xavier Worthy potentially this season. So I am intrigued about him. Brashard Smith too. I'm interested to see if he has any role, or if he's just going to be a kick returner. And then what is the role for Isaiah Pacheco, and how does he look in comparison to how he looked down the stretch last year? So far in the preseason, I think he's looked a little bit better, but I try not to put too much stock in how guys really look in the preseason. I care a little bit more just about who's playing with the ones, and we have seen Kareem Hunt mix in with the ones and the Chiefs this preseason. All right, I think we're ready for the game predictions in this one. I'm going with the Chiefs here. I'm not betting against Pat Mahomes week 1. I honestly think they should probably be favored by a little bit more than 3 points, but the Chargers should have a pretty competitive team at the same time. So yeah, I'm locking in the Chiefs. Which side you guys going with?
I'm going with the Chiefs as well. I think the Chargers, they've got a lot of young players to work into their system, a couple changes. And I think the Chiefs are coming out a lot like the Eagles, like I said, trying to make a statement week 1. And like you said, Pat Mahomes, first game of the season, prime time. I don't want to go against him.
Yeah, I'm taking Patrick Mahomes week 1 too. Another clean slate for the favorites here.
Nice. Yeah, and I do think just one last thought on this game. I mean, the Chargers seem to want to be this really run-first team. And we're going to get such a good look at that in week 1 up against an elite run defense. I mean, if they can really run well in this game, the arrow is pointing way up for this team. And I am curious to see if they stick to that in this matchup versus the Chiefs, or they do skew a bit more pass heavy, just given the game environment and the matchup. That's going to be definitely a fun 2 opening games for the season. Then we get to